Hey, I'm Jen, and today I'm talking about how to create an intentional relationship. Hey, I'm Jen Anderson, and I'm an empowerment life coach for Stronger Because Coaching. And one of the things that I do is I teach people how to be more intentional in their relationships so they show up as the person they really want to be and create a relationship that they're happy with. And marriage is one of those relationships that comes up a lot in these kinds of conversations. So I brought you up on a hike today, and we're going to talk about creating intention within marriage, particularly. Now, I don't know if you know this, but my husband and I are in the process of building a home right now. I've put a couple pictures up on my page because I'm so excited. We have our floor plan. I know right where everything's going to be. I know where everything's going to be stored. I know what colors it's going to be. I know how it's going to smell. I know how it's going to feel to walk in the front door into my kitchen and open the cupboard and start making a meal. I just can see it so clearly in my mind, so clearly. So something that people kept telling us really often was, this is going to be so hard on your marriage. Building a home is really hard on your marriage. And uh, I realized that that's just a thought. That is someone's thought, and I can choose a different thought. Thoughts are optional. And I get to choose ones that serve me and ones that don't. And I realized that when I was thinking the thought, this is going to be so hard on our marriage, it generated more of anxiety and a lot of angst and fear and concern. And those aren't things I want involved in the process of building a home and building a marriage. So when we're not being intentional, we're just being reactionary, and we think we're reporting the news about what happens when this circumstance happens. When you build a home, it's hard on your marriage. That's just what happens. But that's actually a reactionary thought. It's based on the observations of something without intention. Getting attacked by a bug. It's like going out and just saying, I'm going to build a home. I don't really know what it's going to look like, but it'll just depend what we work on by the weather. So today it's raining, so we better build a roof. And today the wind is blowing from the east, so we need to build a wall. That's being reactionary to the weather. And when we're going in to especially a challenging situation, if we're not being intentional, we're going to react instead of being deliberate about how we're showing up. And my marriage isn't a place that I want that to happen. So we chose a new thought. We chose to believe that building a home will strengthen our relationship. And we know that when we arrive, here's the plan. We can see it as clearly as we can see the floor plan, our house, and our mind. We have a vision of where we're going in our marriage. And it's where we both feel very deeply loved and supported. And so we started thinking, what could keep us from achieving this plan? What's our limiters? And I know that the knee-jerk answer is conflict. But we kind of have a different definition of conflict. We consider conflict good because if there isn't a conflict and people have different opinions, and when you have a husband who would love to live in a giant dark cave and a wife who would love to live in a glass house with white accent, there should be some conflict if both people are actually speaking their truth and having a say. So we view conflict as a way of creating space for two people in a marriage so that one person doesn't take a one up and one person take a one down. I concede because I don't want you to be angry, or I concede because I want my way, or I'm the boss because I want my way. That's not something we want to create together, and so we want there to be a place for conflict, for two different opinions. So really what we decided our limiters were based on our data from marriage since 1993. That's how long we've been married. So we have kind of a pretty good idea of what hangs us up, what triggers us, what catches us. And the things that we came up with were withholding information. That's something that we think could limit our ability to have a stronger relationship when this is done. Withholding information to try to make the other person happy or try to keep them from becoming angry. Now we know that when this happens, oftentimes there's some resentment that follows. When someone just does it to please the other person or to keep someone from being mad, but really, really feels strongly about something, resentment, we've found, creates a seed in our marriage that disconnects us. We want connection, support, and deep love. And so that's going to need to be planned for. It's something that we know could come. Another thing that we know could hang us up is using anger to pressure the other person to agree with us. And there's a difference between expressing anger, which we're making okay. Anger, sometimes we just get frustrated. But what was not okay is when we try to use it to pressure the other person to comply, right? In a marriage, it's equal that we don't want one person who is just simply compliant, an automaton. We want there to be space for both of us. And really these top two things, the withholding information to try to manage the other person and using anger to pressure, those are both forms of emotional manipulation. And we've just decided that those don't belong in our marriage plan. So we figured that we need some guidelines to help get us prepared for the limiters that we know could possibly come up. And to head these off, we made a book together. We created some guidelines for us, and I'll just read straight from the book. Here are our guidelines. So we will both feel loved and supported, and to do this, we've chosen that we each have a voice and opinion and are heard. That's just something that is going to be a given in each of our interactions, whether we agree or not. Each have a voice and an opinion and are heard. The other one, we're sensitive, but we're only to try to manage our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. This means there isn't going to be blame. There isn't going to be pressure. There isn't going to be when someone else feels like they are frustrated and express it, the other person isn't going to try to rush in to fix that frustration. They're going to be sensitive, but they're going to allow the other person the space to go ahead and process that. Because when you're trying to make space between a glass house and a man cave, there's gonna be some issues, right? Okay. The other one is we take responsibility for our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. So we manage them, and then we also take responsibility for them. We're not blaming the other person. I would feel better if you would just agree. That's not okay. That's blame. We'll feel better because we choose to manage our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. That's why we'll feel better, not because the other person complies. Okay, and the last one is we don't use anger or withhold information or other emotions to change the other person. We genuinely want our plan, our house plan, to be one that is a culmination of the two of us. We want our marriage plan to be a culmination of the two of us. And so this is our floor plan that we've created so that we can have a marriage where we both feel deeply loved and supported. So I hear you saying, but my spouse won't be on board with something like that. Okay? And I'm going to head you off and say you don't need two people to do this. You don't need the other person to change in order to decide the plan of how you're going to show up in your marriage, regardless of how the other person acts. This is saying, this is my plan, rain or shine. This is my floor plan. Rain or shine, anger, happiness, sadness on your part. This is how I intend to show up because this is who I want to be. You can do that and feel wonderful, regardless of someone else feeling so crappy. You can manage that. So just to recap, there's also one thing I didn't mention, but to recap, we figured out our limiters. We figured out where we wanted to be. We figured out what could keep us from getting there. We created guidelines to help us preempt those sticking points. Then each night we create evidence. Now, our minds are so good at creating evidence to support the negative. If someone were to ask me, has this been really hard on your relationship? I could find evidence to support that belief, but I don't want to. I want to create and find evidence that supports the belief that we're becoming stronger. And so every night we say, and we write it down in our book, How did you feel loved and supported today? And we talk about what the other person did and what we did to create what we're hoping for. The other thing we do is after we have an interaction that was a disagreement, was a conflict of some sort, we go over what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do differently, so that each interaction that had an element of conflict, disagreement, lends to creating a stronger interaction for next time. So if we get through it and we say, you know what, it took 10 minutes to figure out that the other person wasn't blaming me, so next time let's just start with this to cut that off at the pass. And so we're constantly evaluating, constantly creating evidence to support the new thought, which is building a home is going to strengthen our marriage. That's where we're going, because that's in the plan, and we can see it, we can feel it, we know it, it's there. Good is done. All right, so if you would like to learn how to become more intentional in your relationships, regardless of what the other person chooses to do, message me. I can help you. I have a 12-week program that is specifically gauged to help people develop these particular skills so that they are masters. They can solve these kinds of things. And in relationships, this comes up a lot. And relationships are so much of what our life is about, what makes it amazing and what makes it really challenging. So, message me if I can help. Okay, good luck.